Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just say it. AI adoption right now is chaotic, and without some rules, that chaos can get really expensive, especially in the world of finance. So today, we're going to build a playbook to get things under control. Let's just kick things off with a number from Gartner that should make you sit up and pay attention. They're saying the vast majority of AI projects are going to get it wrong. This isn't some small, fringe risk. This is pretty much the default outcome if we don't build these systems with a ton of care. And that really brings up a critical question for any leader in the financial industry. Can you truly trust the AI that's making decisions in your organization? The stakes are just way too high for a wait-and-see approach. Okay, let's dive into this. So here's how we've laid this out for you. We're going to start with the why, the big risks you're facing. Then we'll get into the what, the rules and principles you need to know. And finally, we'll hit the how, the practical, hands-on steps for actually implementing this stuff and testing it. First things first, let's establish the stakes. Why is AI governance an absolute must-have for your business right now, and not just some problem for the tech department to figure out? So when AI is just running wild with no rules, it's not just a tech headache, it's a massive business liability. I mean, imagine an AI loan officer that illegally discriminates based on someone's zip code, or a brand new kind of cyber attack that your best firewalls have never even heard of. These aren't sci-fi scenarios anymore. They're the new realities we've got to manage. And this isn't just theory. You've probably heard this one. Amazon had to scrap a secret AI recruiting tool because it literally taught itself to be biased against women. It just learned from old, biased data, and it created this really damaging feedback loop. It's the perfect example of how good intentions can go completely off the rails and lead to some really harmful outcomes. And just look at where AI is being used. This survey from Deloitte shows it's popping up everywhere, way beyond the IT department. When your marketing team can spin up an AI campaign and customer service can deploy a new bot, well, the risk isn't centralized anymore. And that's exactly why your governance strategy has to be enterprise-wide. Now, what's really fascinating is seeing how regulators around the world are reacting to all these risks. They're definitely not just sitting on the sidelines. Let's get into the new rules of the game. So, regulators all over the world are moving, and they are moving fast. But they're not all moving in the same direction. You've got the EU laying down some pretty strict, hard rules with its AI Act, treating high-risk AI almost like a medical device. Then you have the US, which is starting out with a voluntary framework, kind of like a set of best practices. But here's the big takeaway. No matter where you do business, the Wild West days of building AI in a regulatory vacuum, yeah, those are officially over. So, keeping all these new rules and risks in mind, how do we actually build a framework that can meet these expectations? Well, it all starts with a set of core principles that become your foundation. A really great blueprint comes from Taiwan's financial regulators. Look at these 6 principles. Things like fairness. That directly tackles the kind of bias we saw with that Amazon tool. And explainability. That makes sure you can actually tell a regulator why your AI denied someone a loan. These aren't just fluffy ideals, they're your practical lines of defense. Okay, so we have the principles, but the big question is, how do you actually put them into practice? This is your playbook for building real, on-the-ground control over your AI. The thing about governance is, it's not a one-time checkbox you tick at the very end. It has to be a continuous process, woven into every single stage of the AI lifecycle. It starts right at the beginning, at the design phase, and it carries all the way through to deployment and the constant monitoring that has to happen afterwards. So, who's actually responsible for all this? Well, the good news is you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. That classic 3 lines of defense model that finance has been using forever, it works perfectly. You have your first line, that's the developers and business units, the people building and managing the AI. Then the second line, your risk and compliance folks, they're setting the rules of the road. And finally, your third line, internal audit, comes in to make sure everyone's actually following those rules. It's all about clear rules and accountability. Okay, so your framework's in place and your lines of defense are all set up. But how do you know if any of it actually works? You have to test it. You've got to see if your controls can stand up against real-world threats. And this is where something called AI red teaming comes into play. It's this specialized type of testing that goes way beyond standard checks. It's about thinking like an attacker, simulating adversarial attacks to find weaknesses before the bad guys can exploit them. A red team isn't looking for normal software bugs. They're hunting for these really specific AI-centric weak points. Take prompt injections, for example. That's where an attacker can actually trick your AI into ignoring its own safety rules. Or data poisoning, where they corrupt your training data from the inside out. Finding these flaws isn't just a good idea. It's the only way to build a system that's truly secure. We'll leave you with this final thought. As AI gets more and more autonomous, as it makes these critical decisions about loans, about trades, about your customers' futures, the question isn't if you need governance, but how strong it is. Building a robust, testable, and transparent governance framework, well, that isn't just a best practice anymore. It's absolutely essential for survival and for building trust in this AI-powered future.